coronavirus cases in Los Angeles County comes to 623,670. The confirmed number of deaths reaches 8,875. Here in Torrance, the total number of confirmed cases jumps to 3,102, with total confirmed deaths at 78. We anticipate those numbers to change as the county updates its last 24-hour operating period. Welcome to COVID-19 Today. I'm Leslie Robbins. It's 4 p.m. on Monday, December 21st, the official first day of winter. Los Angeles County and the Southern California region hit a record number of coronavirus cases through the weekend. On Friday, more than 16,000 new cases were reported. On Saturday, 13,756 new cases. And Sunday, more than 13,000 new cases again. The new numbers follow the upward trend of positive cases and deaths due to the coronavirus, and what experts say is the cause and effect of people gathering over the Thanksgiving holiday 3 weeks ago. The Southern California region is at 0% ICU capacity, putting hospitals into a surge. And with the county reaching another grim milestone, crossing more than 600,000 positive cases since the start of the pandemic, and the state marking now more than 1.8 million COVID-19 cases, public health officials continue to urge the public to stay home, avoid gatherings, avoid public places, and only leave the house for essential activities. California Governor Gavin Newsom held a press briefing today from his home, as he may have been exposed to COVID-19 by a staff member who tested positive. While Newsom said he tested negative on Sunday, he will quarantine for the next 10 days per the state's guidance. Now, in today's press conference, Newsom gave an overview of the state's response to the pandemic. He says as nearly 98% of the state is currently under a 3-week stay-at-home order due to the surge in new cases, Southern California and the San Joaquin Valley regions will likely be extended. Southern California's stay-at-home order was set to expire on December 30th, but with ICU capacity down to 0% for several days now, residents should expect to remain safer at home until those numbers improve. Newsom also talked about the promising news of nearly 670,000 Moderna vaccines that are headed to California for its first distribution, with additional 233,000 Pfizer vaccines in the queue for the state's next shipment. He says in the first week of Pfizer's distribution, 70,258 received the vaccine already. Funds are also expected to help in contact tracing efforts, rental assistance, as well as food insecurity. And so far, 7.35 million people have already opted into California Notify. That's the private and free app that lets others know if you may have been exposed. Newsom says the more people opt in, the more effective this tool will be. The Centers for Disease Control and Prevention announced their recommendations for who should get the COVID-19 vaccine next. The CDC advisory panel suggested first responders like police officers and firefighters, along with teachers, postal and public transit workers, grocery store employees, people in food and agriculture, manufacturing, and correctional workers should all be among the next in line. They also recommended that Phase 1B should include adults aged 75 and older, along with essential workers and those 16 to 64 years old who have high-risk medical conditions. Now, due to the limited supplies, this phase of vaccines is not expected to begin until February 2021. Now, the essential workers in Phase 1C make up about 57 million people and would include public health workers, food service employees, public safety engineers, construction workers, people who work in finance, media, legal, water, waste, and energy, along with people who have medical conditions like pregnancy, chronic kidney disease, heart condition, those who are immunocompromised, obese, or smoke, they would also qualify for the vaccine in that first phase of distribution. Now, phase 2 would include anyone over 16 who was not in phase 1 with high-risk medical conditions. Now, California does have its own 16-person advisory committee who will present their recommendations to the state. Well, a second vaccine will make its way to hospitals throughout the country beginning today, as the Food and Drug Administration Advisory Committee gave Moderna's COVID-19 vaccine emergency authorization recently. The panel of physicians and medical researchers hosted a public review of Moderna's vaccine safety and effectiveness and invited the public to join in. Now, experts say with more vaccines in the pipeline, it will significantly boost the largest vaccination effort in U.S. history. Now, Moderna's vaccine is much like the Pfizer-BioNTech, which relies on the same technology of training the immune system to detect and fight the virus, both requiring 2 doses several weeks apart. The FDA found the vaccine was more than 94% effective overall at preventing COVID-19. Another candidate from Johnson & Johnson fully enrolled its largest-scale human trial last week and expects to report its first safety and effectiveness data in January. A 4th vaccine candidate created by AstraZeneca and Oxford University is also in the works, and a 5th vaccine by developer Novavax in partnership with Torrance-based Polypeptide Group is expected to begin its major U.S. trial shortly. Torrance Memorial Medical Center received their COVID-19 vaccines for hospital staff on Saturday, a day earlier than initially expected. Members of the media were invited to witness TMMC's medical staff getting their first of 2 Pfizer COVID-19 vaccines. Now, Torrance Memorial was likely chosen as one of the early recipients of the vaccine, mainly due to the fact that they have the proper refrigeration for storing the vaccine. Hospitals say while they received nearly 2,300 vaccines from Pfizer, only about 80% have opted in. Workers expect to be given their second shot sometime late January. As hospitals in California are stretched to their limits, with some intensive care units at 0% capacity now, some facilities are facing the possibility of not being able to provide critical care for everyone who needs it. Many hospitals already have implemented emergency procedures to stretch staff and space. As of Sunday, there were 6,018 patients hospitalized throughout Los Angeles County and only 328 ICU beds available. As hospitals transition to surge mode, this will force critical care patients to be treated in other parts of the hospital, like the ER or operating recovery rooms, where proper equipment may not be readily available. Officials say patients are having to wait hours for care as hospitals struggle to free up beds as quickly as possible. Last week, California was forced to activate its mass fatality program, which coordinates mutual aid across several government agencies. According to the California Office of Emergency Services, a mass fatality is an incident when more deaths take place in a period of time than can be handled by the local coroner or medical emergency personnel. Well, after months of legal battles over the right to allow indoor religious services, Los Angeles County health officials reversed their ban, allowing for the return of indoor services with safety protocols in place. Now, this news comes just a few days ahead of the Christmas holiday and as the county reaches record-breaking infection rates with more than 100,000 new COVID-19 cases confirmed in just the last 8 days. According to the new health order, places of worship are permitted to offer faith-based services both indoors and outdoors with mandatory physical distancing and face coverings over both the nose and mouth, and must be worn at all times while on site. The new guidelines also call on houses of worship to maintain a physical distance of at least 6 feet between attendees from different households. The county's public health department says while indoor services can resume again, they strongly encourage places of worship to continue holding services outdoors. With the recent surge in COVID-19 cases, Apple announced they will temporarily close all 53 retail stores in California and over a dozen overseas for the foreseeable future. Stores will remain open for some limited functions, including picking up existing online orders, honoring previously scheduled appointments, and one-on-one shopping sessions reserved through Tuesday, December 22nd. Of the 53 stores in the state, about half of them are located right here in Southern California. The company had initially planned to just close retail stores in the Los Angeles area, but with the recent surge impacting the entire state, the decision moved to temporarily close statewide. The company did not say when the stores might reopen. USC Trojans announced their football team will opt out of any postseason bowl bid they may receive. A statement released this weekend read, quote, "It was a decision reached collectively by the USC medical team, the Trojan players and staff, head coach Clay Helton, and athletic director Mike Bone. USC reported their football program has experienced a rise in COVID-19 cases among their players and staff, and they recently included positive cases this past week. USC has paused all team activities for sports not until season January 4th due to the rising case numbers on campus. USC's men's basketball team is now currently under a 14-day mandatory quarantine." Well, speaking of football, the famous Rose Bowl game played on New Year's Day is making a temporary move from Pasadena to Texas. This year on Friday, January 1st, the matchup will be held at the AT&T Stadium in Arlington, Texas, which is home of NFL's Dallas Cowboys. The move was announced the same day it was reported that Rose Bowl organizers were denied a special exception by the state of California to allow fans into the stadium. COVID-19 restrictions in California have also affected other athletic events, including the 49ers playing home games in Arizona and Stanford's basketball team extending their games on the road. Now, here's a bit of trivia for you. The Rose Bowl has played outside of Pasadena only once before, back in 1942. When it played in Durham, North Carolina over concerns about attacks on the West Coast during World War II, following the bombing of Pearl Harbor on December 7, 1941. A nearly $1 trillion stimulus package was finalized on Sunday, hoping to bring relief to Americans and businesses most impacted by the coronavirus pandemic. After months of failed negotiations and contentious partisan gridlock, congressional leaders sealed a coronavirus relief deal to the tune of nearly $900 billion. Now, the package is expected to draw votes in Congress tonight, as it would need to be approved and signed off by the president in the next 24 hours to keep the government funded for the rest of the fiscal year. The package includes a temporary $300 per week supplemental jobless benefit and a $600 direct stimulus payment to most Americans, along with a new round of subsidies for hard-hit businesses and money for schools, healthcare providers, and renters facing eviction. President-elect Joe Biden praised the bipartisan spirit that produced the measure. He said in a statement Sunday, quote, "This is a model for the challenging work ahead for our nation." The final agreement would be the largest spending measure yet. It combined $900 billion for COVID-19 relief with a $1.4 trillion government-wide funding plan, along with other unrelated measures on taxes, health, infrastructure, and education. With Christmas just 4 days away, holiday travel is actually beginning to pick up again. According to the Transportation Services Authority, more than 2 million passengers traveled through checkpoints across the country this weekend. This is in spite of the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention heeding warning to stay home this year due to the global pandemic. This is the first time TSA screened more than 1 million people on consecutive days since March. Travel is still said to be down by nearly 60% from this time last year. The CDC issued an advisory stating that postponing travel and staying home is still the best way to protect yourself and others from COVID-19. Everyone is in for a real treat tonight as what's being hailed the Christmas star will be visible for a short window. Now, over the past few months, the two largest planets, Jupiter and Saturn, have been inching closer together. And tonight they will be at their closest and will be easily visible to the naked eye, looking almost like a double planet. While this planetary conjunction does happen every 20 or so years, this will be the closest from our viewpoint since 1623. The next time they appear this close will likely be 60 years from now. Coincidentally, this is occurring on the winter solstice, the day the sun is at its lowest point in the sky, viewed from the northern hemisphere. It also marks the shortest day of the year and the longest night. Now, if you're planning to check it out, it will only be about 10 degrees above ground when it becomes visible and just 45 minutes after sunset, which should be about 5 p.m. tonight. Well, before we go at the end of each program, we like to share stories from our community. Feel-good pictures, images, and videos that remind us of how resilient our community is and how Torrance truly cares. Just in time for Christmas, the Volunteer Center in Torrance announced they have received more than 25,000 pounds of food donated in the last month from local organizations and partners, along with West and South High Schools in Torrance. Thanks to the help of these generous donations, thousands of holiday meals will be handed out to families who need it the most. It's always great to see these great acts of kindness, big and small, especially as families face serious challenges as a result of this pandemic. Kudos to our South Bay communities for coming together in this time of need. Now, if you have a great story to share, email us at covid19today@torranceca.gov. We'd love to hear from you. Well, that is our update for COVID-19 today. Be sure to tune in tomorrow as Christine Lee brings you the latest. Please be safe, stay healthy, and thanks for tuning in. We'll see you next time.